Like we've talked about this, so like in the American culture, which I agree with Chris, we got to get you out here and have you kind of see wine country in California. But the American drinking culture has evolved so much over the last 30,
Hmm.
40 years in particular. But now how people are taking in their information is evolving at an even faster pace, right?
Yeah.
So, like one thing, and I don't know if this is common in anywhere in Europe, really. Do you guys ever do consumers go to wine dinners?
Actually, I'm wine tastings are getting more and more popular. So like general wine tastings, wine dinners. I mean, what is the definition of wine dinner? Like wine tasting combined with dinner,
Yeah,
or
so it would be like an upscale restaurant has uh, partners with one winemaker, or maybe two or three
okay.
winemakers, and they put a 5 course meal together, and then they select a wine to go with each dish, or they create the dish around the wine, and then both the
Hmm.
wine producer and the chef and restaurant would invite all of their customers that are in the area that might have interest,
Yeah.
and they show up, and they could be 30 people, could be 150 people, whatever. And then the typical wine dinner is that each course will come out, and the chef will stand up and talk about the dish and why he did use these ingredients and cooked it this way to pair with this
Ooh.
wine, and then the winemaker will stand up and talk about how they made the wine and the history of it and that sort of thing.
Mm.
So this was a very common thing for like the last, I'd say, 30, 40 years, but I see it like dwindling now in the United States. It's not even wine events where you would have
Oh, really?
500 producers, all come down in one location, and you'd have thousands of consumers. And the evolution of it is that now it's all kind of becoming thrown together, where now we have food and wine events, and those are much more intriguing.
Okay.
But you have something for everybody. You have different beers there. You have different spirit producers that are making their signature cocktail. A number of wineries that are pouring their wines. A number of chefs that have come and are doing bites, and they got live music. And so it's almost like the festival is what is taking over
Okay.
the wine dinner and the wine event. And I'm for it. I see that as the next iteration that is going to get people excited. You're outdoors, and there's so much going on, and there are so many opportunities for enjoyment rather than going up to a single table and tasting the wine. So I mean, what do you see in Europe? What are the standards of how people communicate on a person to person basis with their wines?
That's interesting. I'm not sure about Western Europe. I think these wine dinners can be more popular in Eastern Europe, in Hungary, in Romania, in Central Europe. I wouldn't say that these are popular, but what I've noticed, like general wine tastings, are getting more and more popular in lots of places. There are like organized wine tastings, wine clubs that are getting quite popular, and just in any like general cultural events, festivals, there are always like a few wine tastings organized as well, and people are interested. So I think there is like a positive trend, not nothing crazy, so it's not booming yet, but this trend is growing, I think. And wine education in general, the WSET programs are quite popular right now. Lots of people doing it just out of passion. Lots of, I mean, a few professionals as well, but mostly just people who have time and have the money, and they would just like to improve their culture. And lots of people are taking the WSETs. But yeah, I do think that it needs a lot more work to popularize these events and ideas. And I want to come back to you. I want to ask you. You said that you prefer this trend of having these like festivals combine gastronomy and wine events, which are kind of replacing these wine dinners. Don't you think that maybe it's obviously it's good? I'm not saying that these events are not good. I think it's a great opportunity for customers to try lots of things, but for the wineries presenting their stories to, isn't it a bit more shallow? Like people go in 2 days and visit like 500 wineries, and maybe you have the opportunity, maybe you can catch some minds, but isn't it spread out too widely, the
So
attention?
I would say that I don't prefer that personally from an education standpoint. You don't have a captive audience, right? So it is much shallower. I think that's a good
Yeah.
way to describe it. But what I'm saying is that I'm all for it because it's bringing such a broad array of people into wine.
Okay.
Maybe they came because like Chef Bayless is there and he's doing his one of his signature dishes, and they know there's going to be beer and wine and whatever else, and so that's your entry point. And I think that we don't have enough entry points right now for wine and really the story of luxury wine. But from my personal preference, being able to have those like a dinner and being much more specific and definitive about what you're talking about and who you're talking to, yeah, that's great. But how do we get those people in more?
I think also communicating across generations, Gen Z, right? The new drinkers coming into the community, because it's like between 21 and 27, right? And so now we're talking about generations that, I mean, we've already talked about attention spans, but growing up on iPads, social media, they're putting their videos on at 1.5 speed. I mean, now they're just speeding up the way people even talk, right? Like we're doing it too. So, yeah, so I kind of get that element of trying to reach across generations as many people as you can. A festival could do it, do it well.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that the culture of like wine tasting is still there in Europe. It seems to be waning here in the U.S. I do think that there's going to be an uptick coming because I think the story of wine and what it's about is really that it seems to fit like perfectly with what people want to see in culture. Like that's and it's there. It's been there for thousands of years, you could say. And I think that it's a matter of like how do you uncover that for them, but more importantly, how do they discover that on their own? Because that's part of part of it now.
Thanks for watching this video. You can watch the full podcast episode by clicking here, or watch another interesting video by clicking here. Let's continue the discussion in the comment section and see you in the next one.